Okay, this is AJ here at the Hero Informer, and let me just ask you a question. If the Joker, the one villain, arguably Batman's worst villain, the same person who has caused not only chaos, trauma, destruction, death within Bruce's life for years, decades at this point, do you think if the Joker was dying, Bruce would go out of his way to save his life? Save the one man, the one figure who he can't quite rehabilitate or save? And if your answer is yes, he would, well, ding, 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 you got it right, as that's exactly what we see here. The Joker being brutalized, beaten close to death by Hush, and now is left by Batman to either make the giant decision, save the Joker or let him die. And this decision here even weighs heavily on Bruce himself, as he even goes on to say, I don't know what bothers me more, the decision I made or that Hush made it for me. The choice I made, I have no idea what the ripple effects will be when they find out. Though as we see Bruce driving the beaten and battered Joker in his Batmobile to somewhere safe to get him repaired and looked at, we also see another story, a flashback being told in the same way, with Bruce as a child back in Crime Alley during that fateful day, the day that Batman was born, the day that both of his parents died. With it even being revealed that no, it wasn't Alfred that night that came and saw him and picked him up at first, but it was a woman, a random stranger who didn't even know him at the time. A doctor who was just nearby and heard the gunshots. And there she saw a lost boy and knew what had to be done. She didn't know that he was the child of some billionaires and one of Gotham's most wealthiest families. No, she's seen a lost boy, someone who just suffered a tragedy and needed help, showing that regardless of the circumstance, she is a good person and was doing this for selfless reasons. And as we find out, even after all of these years, these decades at this point, with Batman being in his like mid 40s, I think canonically, or maybe even late 30s, I'm not sure at this point, but he is still kept in touch with her. Her, Dr. Leslie Tompkins, even knowing that Bruce Wayne is Batman. She is some of the few people that he can take this very unique situation to, because for Batman, very few people know his secret, and an even fewer amount of people speak to him on a casual level as she does. But this is an emergency. There is no time for formalities or certain protocols being met. Even here, she doesn't have the right technology. You know, the Joker in the state he is in now, he needs a full staffed ER team to fully be able to diagnose and help him, stop him from dying on the spot. But Batman can't take that chance. He can't just send Joker to a normal hospital. That's what Hush wants. Hush wants him to be seen out in the public. He wants to destroy his public image. Imagine seeing Batman, this protector of Gotham, almost looking like he's in cahoots with the Joker, saving his life, getting him to a nearest hospital. So he had to find someplace unexpected. And as we finally see the Joker's body, yeah, he is going to need all the help he can get. But even with this Dr. Leslie here, her being a trained professional, even this still might not be enough, because Joker at this point is just too far gone. There's no guarantee that what she can do now in this limited time and limited resources can even hope to save the Joker in the state he is in. Her going on to explain that this is almost impossible. She doesn't have any of the equipment, an MRI, a CT scan. She is just poking around in the dark here. And even Batman, for the first time, his confidence starts to wane. As he goes on to say, time is of the essence, and we're wasting it having this conversation. Her hands, she's nervous, she's trembling. Did I make a mistake coming here? Though to make matters even worse, just then the Joker starts to wake up. But to work on him successfully, they need him sedated. But in the state he is in now, Batman even goes on to say that using sedatives or whatever bat gas that he has could kill him. Hush is forcing his hand again. Eventually, though, they are able to get the Joker back unconscious to be worked on. And with Batman leaving this work in the hands of the professional, and here we see something that we usually don't really see Batman doing. We see him drift off and fall asleep. Now, I'm not sure if it's still canon at this point anyway, but before it was revealed that to be Batman almost 24/7, he has no time in the middle of the night to get 8 hours of full sleep, so he does something called micro sleep, which is just like sleeping a few minutes throughout the day instead of getting a full hour's worth, which for any normal functioning human being is like impossible, and eventually you would just come crashing down. But for Batman, that seemed to work, though what doesn't work is he still dreams. In this stressful situation, you know, we see him dream of the Joker. And even in his slumbering mind, his subconscious, he isn't sure if the decision he's made or still actively making to save the Joker is the right one, because he even goes on to dream to himself that he has made a promise to rid the city of evil. And the Joker being almost the personification of the evil and everything wrong with the city, Batman questions if he is breaking his vow of being Batman in the first place by saving the worst thing he has promised to get rid of. We find out that actually the medical miracle was successful. The Joker, for now at least, is saved, but it isn't all perfect, you know. He's only saved as far as being stable now, you know. He isn't going to die at any second, yet still his condition can wane at any point in time. And of course, Batman still can't take him to any normal hospital, let alone Arkham, which in this condition he is in now, yeah, Joker will be dead within a day if he went to Arkham, and all the people who have vendettas against Joker are there. So that only really leaves Bruce with one option. We see Batman take the Joker to the Batcave, which to my knowledge, the Joker being in the Batcave, you know, here though against his will and unconscious, but I can count on my fingers the number of times this has actually happened throughout the history of Batman. Though here, the situation is of course a little different. Batman being able to actually study the Joker for the first time. As he even goes on to say, this is the last place I want the Joker to be. But perhaps this is an opportunity, because his brain, even his body, is unlike anything I've ever studied before. For as long as I've known the Joker, I have never truly understood him. Why is he the way that he is? To be able to think like him, to anticipate his chaotic behavior. Which makes for a truly interesting premise, you know, Batman being able to actually study the Joker down to his very brainwaves and the way that he acts and thinks. Though even still, his decision hangs heavily above his head. The Joker here, alive in his Batcave, you know, the one place where he keeps all of his secrets, all of his dangerous toys, and all of his gear. As he goes on to continue saying, I could have dumped you in the bay, found a furnace, or even an open grave, or just left you there to die. But I will not do it hush once. He thinks that this entire thing is just a game. We are at war, and this war is one that I am not losing. Bruce goes on to continue to examine the Joker now that he has taken this opportunity to the fullest. As he goes on to think that there was a time when he thought the Joker's skin was just like a greased kind of paint, hoping that one day he could just wipe it off and reveal his true hidden face. But this here, what he is now, is different. It seems like some kind of chemical has erased his entire skin pigmentation down to a cellular level. It's almost as if he was dead. He doesn't even have fingerprints. Maybe more effects from the chemicals, or maybe it was something else more intentional or unimaginable that he did to himself. His feet and toes have no prints either. So with no true identifying factors, who would really care if he just disappeared, died, went into the night as a silent blimp, and just was gone? Though as Batman is doing his studies here, suddenly things change as there is a gun pointed to the back of his head. Meaning whoever this is, whoever this person who got into the cave, must know it pretty well. As even Batman, after saying, how did he even get in here, this third party person goes on to say, I know how you think. You would never put yourself in a locked room without an exit, and your exit is my entrance. But Batman knows that his cowl is reinforced, his suit. He can take a bullet or two before truly being hurt or in danger. So as this now was silent goes on to say, sure, but he's not bulletproof, as he points his gun to the Joker. But Batman, thinking fast, averts his aim, and instead of killing the Joker here point blank, he shoots and hits the power grid, knocking all power out in the entire Batcave for at least 20 seconds until the relays kick in. And here, as Batman and this new assailant start to fight, if you can just put two and two together and use basic logic, who knows Batman down to a T, who uses guns, who has a personal vendetta against Joker living, you can pretty safely and pretty accurately assume who this person might be. And even Batman has this same kind of judgment in theory, though, you know, his voice is muffled by the mask, so he has to know for sure. Because Thomas Elliot, Hush, has used this kind of trick before, you know, impersonating and using people that Batman has known in the past as a kind of deceiving act. So Batman just has to be sure. So after a little bit of more scuffling, here we get to a point that I'm not really sure how to feel about. Because as the story here goes on to explain it, Batman needs to confirm the identity of who this attacker is. And yet, in this moment, the only real and effective way, the most unanticipated way, is to use a firearm, a gun, something that he has famously swore off from ever using unless he is in the most of dire circumstances. As we see him here lunge for it and actually firing a gunshot, point blank in the head at this new assailant, as we can see it is Red Hood himself. So yes, Batman not only decided to use guns, but to shoot one of his sons. Now of course, Red Hood did have his, well, red hood in his helmet to protect and deflect the bullet, but the same point still stands. And eventually, after a little bit of more scuffling, the power is able to reboot and come back on, where we can see in full flourishing Jason Todd, the Red Hood. Which even still at this point, both Red Hood and Batman have each other at a gunpoint. And Bruce himself using guns is bad enough, but even Red Hood, who up to this point within DC canon, he has actually given up using guns and killing in general, being more in line with the other Bat family members to subdue and attack instead of just straight up maiming and killing. Though here, with the Joker here on the field, it seems like all bets are off. And this doesn't just seem to be a case of, oh, you know, Joker, the person who killed me, who tortured me, is here alive, well, let me just finish the job and kill him. No, it seems to go a little bit more deeper than that, even questioning his loyalties to Bruce, the heroes. But even still, Batman tries to pacify the situation, telling Jason that he isn't supposed to be angry at the Joker. The Joker, the villain that did all those things to him, he was only the blunt instrument. Because deep inside of Jason's heart, he knows and believes that it was Batman who truly got him killed. And Batman knows this is the truth because Batman, Bruce Wayne, feels the same way. Jason was supposed to be his partner, his Robin, a child, one that Bruce himself realizes and says that he should have never put in harm's way. And if he did, then it was his job to protect him. Yet here, in this time of Bruce almost breaking down, you know, putting his cards down on the table, his flaws, his shortcomings, something that, you know, famously Bruce Wayne, the Batman, has a hard time doing, fully expressing and opening up, well, Jason Todd takes his time in this moment of weakness and distraction to straight up just knock Batman unconscious and out, saying if all of that is true, then how could you save the Joker's life? But while Batman is unconscious taking a little nap, we move over across Gotham, where we see some of the other heroes and players during the situation and what they're doing, specifically Batgirl and Nightwing. And if you thought what Bruce was dealing with was crazy, you know, trying to save the Joker's life, Jason Todd, the Red Hood, coming back to fight him to kill the Joker, what these heroes now are dealing with is also probably on that same same level of craziness as well, as we see them arguing about how could this new unnamed person sneak into this bell tower, this base where Batgirl operates as to be the eyes and ears of the Bat family. Nightwing portraying that whoever this person that Batgirl let in is bad news, a villain if you will. But Batgirl just simply goes on to say, if what this person is saying is true and my intuition is telling me it is, for right now we can only trust each other, revealing to us that it is none other than the Riddler, you know, the other iconic Batman villain, now seemingly working with the side of the heroes. So yeah, you can see here that the alliances and allegiance with heroes and villains alike are all mixed up and switched, because the Riddler here, who by the way is sporting a whole new design, which is interesting, you know, is different from his normal attire, is more armored and battle-like. He goes on to say, you're going to need all the help you can get, Dick, you and Babs, even Bruce, you know, just throwing in their faces that he knows each and every one of their identities and who they are, though it is nothing to scoff at if the Riddler himself wants to help Batman against this threat of Hush and what Hush is planning, meaning it's going to be something big. But as Bruce, Batman slowly starts to wake up, not even knowing how long he has been out, a couple things are revealed to what has happened. Firstly, we see that he is completely alone. There's no Red Hood, there's no Joker, it's just him. Secondly, the car is gone, the Batmobile stolen. And thirdly, Jason Todd didn't just like put a bullet inside of the Joker's head and killed him here. As I've kind of alluded to before, it is a little deeper than that, as even Batman goes on to make this realization, saying Jason Todd said he was going to finish what he came here to do, and that was not to kill the Joker, which only leads to one natural conclusion. Jason Todd, the Red Hood, one of the many sons of Batman, is now working with Hush, which is crazy but not really a new thing, as back in the original Hush storyline, this was technically a thing that also happened, you know. Red Hood also worked with Hush himself then, you know, at first being impersonated by Clayface, but then we found out that it was the real Red Hood who had their motives aligned and he decided to work with the villain. Though here, for whatever reason, and why he might want to work with Hush instead of just killing the Joker, as it would make sense for him want to, we see that Bruce is going to have a lot more obstacles if he wants to restore order, or as much as he can in Gotham anyway. But if you've enjoyed watching, leave a like, or subscribe if you're new and want to see more content just like this. As always, this was AJ here at the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.